So today we are going to be looking at rapid learning techniques. So this is part 13 of what we have been doing for the last 15 weeks. As I said, the power of personal achievement. It is based on a training by Brian Tracy. Now, there are certain things that are very interesting things that are known about the brain. So let's look at that. So the first thing is that intelligence, as we know it, like intelligence being measured as IQ, develops just like the way we develop muscles. So it is possible to actually develop and improve one's intelligence through effort and through using specific techniques. It is actually possible. So they, Brian Tracy says that IQ is actually malleable over 25 points. So IQ is measured in the form of points. So I have just summarized the point thing of IQ. So the IQ scale, as they call it. So 90 to 110, there are levels lower than this also, which I have not looked at. Almost all of us are in this, any of these levels, middle or higher. So 90 to 110 is average, and 50% of the population is in that range. 111 to 120 is above average with 15% of the population. 121 to 130, they call it gifted, and there is a 6% there. And above 130 is extremely gifted. So Einstein and all these people are all in that above 130 range. Now, the point is this, that you imagine that, let us say we are in the average or above average level, right? The potential for actually pushing it into gifted and highly gifted is very much possible because it can be moved by 25 points, right? So I just want you to keep this in mind as we are going through the various things that we do today. This is like a background preparation that I'm giving to what we're going to talk about. So this is a very, very interesting concept, and I'm going to give you a very nice story, which is validating this particular aspect, that IQ is affected by our self-concept. We have looked at in previous sessions what we mean by self-concept. Self-concept is what is the image, or what do we look at ourselves as. That self-concept is deciding also, it can impact the IQ. Okay. So if you consider yourself to be bright, you will be smarter. Okay. And this is not just us considering, one is us considering, but us considering largely is influenced by our society. Right from our childhood, the way the parents have told what we are or how we are, not just parents, our teachers, anybody who is in a position of authority have told us, okay, you are very bright or you are very stupid, whatever they may have told us. All those things have had influences on us. So if our parents in our childhood kept telling us how smart we are, as against not telling anything or telling something negative, that, oh, you're so stupid, you're an idiot, that kind of stuff. If they have not told like that, or not said anything at all, and they have kept telling you how smart you are, then you automatically start performing at a higher IQ level, because this self-concept is influenced by not only what we believe, but what we take in as what others think about us, right? Now, in this context, I want to share a very, very beautiful story. There is something that is called a Pygmalion effect or a Rosenthal effect. Rosenthal, that name is coming from the scientists who did the study, Rosenthal and Jacobson. So this is sometime in the 1960s that this particular study was done. What happened is this, that this particular, these two scientists, they went to a school, this is somewhere in California, they went to a school and they administered a certain IQ test to a group of students in a school. And then once the IQ test was administered, they took the papers and all that, and they did not show the results to the teachers or the school, but they gave the results. Whatever is the assessment, they gave the assessment and told them that, look, this 20% of the kids, 1, 2, 3, 4, they listed out this set of kids. These kids are the most potential kids in your class. This is the input that was given to the school authorities and to the teachers. Thereafter, these people went back after 1 year and they administered a standard IQ test again. Okay. The interesting observation was that the IQ of these children who were told, they said that these 20 children are extremely gifted. Those children's IQ had been pushed up. Okay. Now the interesting point is this, that name of those 20% children that they gave was a random list. That means that was not based on any particular, they took that whatever IQ test they took, they didn't base the results they gave to the school on that. They just randomly selected 20% of the kids and said, these 20% kids, these are your exceptionally, gifted children. The perception of the teachers that these children are gifted changed the whole how the children are over the period of 1 year. This is the power of how IQ can be impacted by our self-concept. So I want you to just keep this in your mind, that how we think of ourselves and how others have in our younger years kept telling us how we are is having a very strong impact on our own IQ. Right. So basically this works just like this, that people who are really fit, that means like who have got very good body and who are extremely healthy, you will find that these people who are really fit are exercising every day. That is why they are really fit. Okay. As compared to people who are non-fit people, if you look at somebody who is not fit, you can be sure that they will be exercising once in a week or once in a month. They will not be exercising every day. And if you see somebody who's really fit, if you talk to him, you will find that he is exercising every day. So just the same way that really fit people exercise every day, constantly using our mind means that you are getting smarter and brighter. That is why it is so important to keep our mind so active. Okay. Now, learning ability can be increased and even accelerated learning is possible. In other words, it is possible to convert the brain into like a sponge so that it just soaks up information. All this is possible. You can learn to learn faster and easier. I'm saying it is possible to learn how to learn faster. And that is something that we are going to look at. There are some certain aspects which are very powerful techniques. And of course, the bottom line from a business perspective, when we look at from, if you want to earn more, you must be willing to learn more. If you are not willing to learn, the possibility of earning doesn't happen. Okay. Those people who have kind of decided that, okay, I have all my learning, I have finished in school, beyond that, I'm going to do nothing. Their life will stagnate at multiple levels, including financially. Okay. Now, there is another interesting thing. Learning and longevity, that is how long we live, is connected. There's a direct relationship between our continuous process of learning and how long we live. The longer we continue to learn and the more mentally active we are, you will live longer and you will also be healthier. It's an amazing connection that is there. How important it is that we keep our mind continuously active in a continuous state of learning, basically. It does not matter what is it that we are learning. So if you want to look at an example, okay, many of you would have heard of Goethe. He was a German poet, playwright, novelist, scientist, statesman, and many, many more things. Okay. He has written so many plays, but this particular play called The Faust, the part 2 of that play, he wrote part 1 earlier, but part 2 of the play, he started writing it at the age of 86. Can you believe that? Okay. At the age of 86, he started writing it and he completed it at the age of 89. Okay. This is what I'm saying is possible, that if we keep our mind fit and active, we can continue to be really productive for many, many more years to come. So even particularly in today's context, retirement is an outdated idea. See, this whole thing about retirement was invented as a part of the industrial era, where you had people you're filling them up in offices or in factories, and then beyond a point, they become unproductive and you just kind of eliminate them and let fresh blood flow in. But today, we are working with our brain, okay? And it is possible that you can be at your prime at the age of 75, okay? I mean, if you really look back a few generations ahead, we always just think of it, no? That the people who are the oldest were considered the most valuable to the society. Now the situation has changed. But at that time, the most elderly person was the most sought after person. That is, you go to him for advice, he will take decisions. It was like that. So the possibility is that you can be at your prime at the age of 75. You could be dancing at weddings, you could be traveling, learning, you could be doing so many things even at the age of 75. It is a matter of your personal choice if you choose to keep your brain active, right? So the choice is completely in our hands. And remember, there is a direct connection between Alzheimer's and the brain atrophy. See, today, this whole thing about Alzheimer's, dementia, what is that? Parkinson's, so many of these things are becoming so commonplace. I'm saying if we keep our brain extremely active, they are saying that the connection between Alzheimer's, that is the likelihood of Alzheimer's or dementia, is diminished. People who are truly active physically and mentally rarely experience becoming senile. Just mute yourself. Right. So this was the background that I wanted to give you. And with this background, let us look at something very, very interesting. Please pay careful attention. It's awesome stuff. So all of us would have heard about the left brain and the right brain. What science is saying is that the left and the right hemispheres of our brain are responsible for very, very different ways of thinking. So what is this difference between the left and the right hemisphere? Just look at it. The left hemisphere is logical. That means all this logical way of thinking is all a left hemisphere thing. It's very rational. Okay. Something irrational or something intuitive and all will not happen here. Analytical, pragmatic. Okay. If something, if you say that it is, the brain will analyze and say, Acha, is it a logical and is it a valid thing? Only then you will accept it. It is very concrete, very, very specific numbers and things like that. It's very linear. So, even in terms of science, they say that Newtonian physics is a very linear mechanism, whereas the modern physics is much more system oriented. It is very different, right? So this is a very linear process. The left hemisphere is very linear. It is sequential. That means first this, then this, then this. That's the way it works. All this thing about mathematics happens in the left brain. As far as language is concerned, learning the words and the meanings of the words is a left hemisphere activity. Okay. On the other hand, the power to use language in a very beautiful way, the power to, poetry, or just playing with the language and dishing out a fantastic literary piece is a right hemisphere activity. There is a very big difference. Like the people who are very left brain, they will know the meanings of words. They will, their vocabulary will be fantastic, but they may not be able to throw up a fantastic piece of literature. The right hemisphere is extremely visual. It's like it keeps taking photographs. See, you've heard of people, they say, no, they have a photographic memory. This is a very, very right hemisphere activity. It's very holistic. It looks at a much bigger picture. It's very intuitive. It's abstract. So as compared to the left brain, where it needs all various pieces and it has to be clearly seen, very abstract things are possible with the right hemisphere. All the space of music, all these things related to art, all the things related to dance, the spontaneity that is possible, everything, poetry, language, all these things are right hemisphere activities. So, they say that, women are kind of more the right hemisphere kind, and men, or it's not actually men and women, it's more as masculine and feminine. In our Indian culture and even in the Eastern traditions, they associate all these logical, that is left hemisphere activities, to the masculine, and all the right hemisphere activities to the feminine, the more subtle aspects. Now, just keep this in mind as we are going ahead. Now, here is something fantastic. Some of you may have heard of it. If you have not heard of it, you should listen to this carefully. Now, the brain functions at 4 different levels. Now, these levels that we are talking about are, if they take an, what do they call it, an EEG. They put probes on the head and they measure these frequencies. They have categorized these frequencies into the 4 names that I'm going to talk about. First is the beta state, which is the alert active state. For example, right now, the frame of mind that we are in is the beta state, which is there is a certain frequency range in which the waves are seen, 12 to 35 hertz. This is the alert active state. The next state, they call it the alpha state, which is 8 to 12 hertz. Now, this is a state when you are relaxing and just before you go to sleep. So the states of deep relaxation, the states of deep meditation are all in this alpha state. It is awake, but not fully alert. That is the state of this alpha. Next level is the theta state. Theta state, the frequency, they say 4 to 8. It is just after you fall asleep. You must have, all of us have experienced this. The state of, just falling asleep, and there is, we fantasize certain things. And also all the states of dreams that happen is all in this theta state. And finally, there is a delta state, which is 0.5 to 4 hertz, where it is deep sleep. And they call it, this is the state where they call it like a dreamless sleep. There is no dreams in this state. Okay. So now the point is this, that what we are actually interested in is this particular zone of alpha and theta. So in particular, this alpha. That is a state where we are awake but not awake. We are deeply relaxed. And see, every day when you go to sleep and every day when you wake up from sleep, you are crossing this alpha state every day. This whole thing, if those of you who have looked at hypnosis and things like that, the entire activity of hypnosis is happening in this alpha state. And what we are also trying to look at is, what is the power of this alpha state is this? Let's look at it. So a complete sleep cycle will take you from beta right up to delta and back. Okay. And if we have a proper complete sleep cycle, then 2 to 3 hours of, it takes 2 to 3 hours to go right up to delta and come back. You can be fully rested if you get a full proper cycle of the sleep. But unfortunately, today, many people's sleep cycles are disturbed for multiple reasons. Because either people are sitting late night, their sleeping times are irregular, or, people, so many of us, we are using stimulants of various kinds. So all these things are disturbing the sleep cycle. So many people are not able to get this proper going to this full state of delta in one continuous thing and coming back. That's not happening for many people. Okay, now let's look at rapid learning techniques with this background and this understanding. So the possibility is that your learning can be accelerated if you are able to reprogram the subconscious mind. And the means to reprogram the subconscious mind is when you can give inputs to the subconscious mind when the brain is at the alpha theta level, preferably alpha level, because the moment you go into theta, you'll fall asleep. That means you lose your consciousness. At the state of that alpha, just at that threshold where we are not fully awake and we are not asleep, that state is a very, very powerful state. And that is the state where huge amount of inputs to the subconscious is possible. So basically, you close your eyes and relax. There are various techniques of relaxation. For example, those of you who are practicing yoga, if you are practicing Shavasana, Shavasana is a process by which you can reach this alpha theta level, alpha level in particular. So you close your eyes and relax. And the suggestion is, of course, in yoga, we do not use music and all that. It's not required. But if you are using it as a rapid learning technique, use of music and relaxation to reach this alpha theta level is particularly supportive. Because as we have seen earlier, the music, particularly classical music, is a very, very right brain activity. And it's very supportive for doing all these subtler things, for giving inputs to the subconscious. So use music and relaxation in combination. And thereafter, we give inputs of positive messages. So that's why, I want you to now look back on so many things that we have spoken in the past about, so many times we keep saying that keep focusing on what you want. Don't focus on what you do not want. Is because this continuous input that we keep giving ourselves has an impact on the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind acts on it. Okay, it treats it as reality, because subconscious mind, as we have seen earlier, the conscious mind is able to, discriminate. It will say, oh, this is real, this is not real, this is true, this is not true. But the subconscious mind cannot differentiate. It just accepts whatever is said as a command. And that is why, if we want to make a significant change, even any of you who have delved into hypnosis, self-hypnosis, in self-hypnosis, you're again going to a very relaxed state and giving positive inputs to yourself, whatever changes that you want to bring about. Right? So you give positive inputs, and these positive inputs under this condition, that means when you are in this alpha state, alpha theta state, it will bypass your conscious mind, and the words and messages go straight into the subconscious mind. And when this input is received by the subconscious mind just treats it like an order. It is just an instruction to be followed. And when this is consistently done, changes start happening in our life. So effectively, what starts happening, and then you come awake. So from that state, there is a step-by-step process by which you come awake. These positive words and messages are then programmed into your subconscious mind, and they begin to change your thinking, feeling, and behavior. This is the power of this rapid learning technique. Okay. So you can, further refine this thing, you can learn rapidly if you do the following. First is, you have a very clear purpose. Define your purpose. What is it that you want? What are your goals? This, whatever learning process that you're putting yourself through, whatever reprogramming you're doing yourself, your goal has to be very clear to you. Okay, so define your purpose very clearly, and then have an intense desire to learn. That longing and that willingness has to be there. It is, you can't kind of force yourself to try and do these things, because see, even in hypnosis, what they say is that when this when the hypnotist, even under a hypnotized state, if there are certain suggestions which are given which are against the morals or the ethics of the person who is under the hypnotic state, that person will not accept it, because the conscious mind, somewhere it will block it. Okay, therefore, it is very important to have an intense desire. That willingness has to be there. And then, if you're studying something, they say that, studying whatever, particularly for children, this is something that is powerful, that children could utilize. Studying with some classical music playing in the background. Now, the important point is that it should be instrumental music and not the words, because what will happen is, just think back, all those wonderful tunes in our childhood, okay, all those songs that we have heard, Hindi movie songs or whichever language songs that we've heard, just look at how powerfully the words of those songs are stuck in our head after decades of not listening to it. Even just now, the moment you hear the tune, those words will pop up. Why? Because riding with the music, those words have also gone in. So here, if you are trying to utilize this technique for, as a learning process, then use instrumental music where there are no words, so that the whatever words you are learning will ride with that classical music and get into your head. It will reach the subconscious mind. Okay, so two things we are looking at. One is utilizing the alpha theta state for programming the subconscious mind with positive reinforcements. That is one. Second is that if there is something that we want to learn, keep a background of music playing. First, have a clear clarity of what is it that you're trying to learn. Have an intense desire to learn. And with this music in the background, if you whatever you're reading, whatever you may be doing, it will just go in effortlessly into your mind. What is the background of everything we are talking about? That we should be in a constant state of learning throughout our life. As long as we are alive, we should be in a state of learning, because that has a very, very powerful way. That has a very powerful way of keeping us healthy. Okay. So that brings us to this possibility called taped affirmation. So in a taped affirmation, what is done is that first, there is a progressive relaxation with music. That means there is a classical music playing in the background, and with that music, there is a progressive relaxation that is done, and the body and mind is brought to a deeply relaxed state. In this relaxed state, there are positive affirmations that are given and repeated 5 times. Multiple times you repeat these positive affirmations. So those affirmations, even in self-hypnosis, you have those affirmations prepared and ready, because you be clear about what is it that you want. And then in the relaxed state, you are repeating it yourself. In taped affirmation, there is an external voice that is talking. The vocal sound of this affirmations is there. Internally, you just write with that affirmation, just agreeing with it, not trying to do anything. Beyond the point, if you're deeply relaxed, even this agreeing process will not happen. It will be just one beautiful experience. And after this process is over, slowly, step by step, you are brought out of the relaxed state to a full state of alertness. So when taped affirmation is going on, as we saw last time also in the last week's session, the less you try, the faster and deeper the affirmations will embed into the subconscious. So when we are doing this relaxation, you don't try to relax. You just let yourself go. Just let it be. The more you let go, the easier relaxation will happen. And the more you not try anything, not trying to get relaxed, not trying to do anything at all, the more relaxed you are. Like what we saw last week, importantly, is that if you are doing something in the external world, you need actual brute strength, physical this thing and all that, prowess. But when you are working with the mind, you have to learn to do less. You have to learn to relax and let go. And with that state, when you're feeding the mind, it works beautifully. So the less you try, the faster and deeper these affirmations will embed into the subconscious. So that's the end of today's session. That's the rapid learning techniques for today.